Okay, hashtag wow, hashtag now. Now, there's a video called Mind Your Decisions. Now, it kind of points out one of these problems that usually you see on Facebook or YouTube, where a student will be taking a test and they'll be coming up with an answer where the teacher disagrees or the test disagrees. The point is that people look at the answer the student gave and realize, yeah, the student was actually in the right in this time. Here's an interesting scenario where, again, the web show Mind Your Own Decision point out the fact that, yeah, the student is actually correct in this scenario, and yet the way they said it made a lot of sense, but when I really thought about it, it's like, well, actually, no, that doesn't make sense at all. I think the question is too vague, and I think they're missing the point. Now, I'm going to go ahead and play the video. I'm not saying they're stupid. Nobody's stupid in this case, but I do have to say that, yeah, maybe both the teacher and the student are wrong. The thinking is correct. So it's kind of funny how you can be correct in your thinking process, but still be wrong at the same time. But anyhow, I have an answer that I think is correct, and I'll explain later. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and play the video, and you see, and what do you think?
Here's a problem that got the internet laughing. It took Marie 10 minutes to saw a board into 2 pieces. If she works just as fast, how long will it take her to saw another board into 3 pieces? What's the answer? A student had written the response of 20 minutes. Here's where it gets interesting. The teacher marked this as wrong and confidently wrote, the answer is 15 minutes. The teacher even provided some reasoning. 10 minutes is given as the amount of time for 2 pieces. So clearly, each of the pieces requires 5 minutes. So the teacher wrote that 15 minutes would be the amount of time for 1 more piece to 3 pieces, and then adding 5 more minutes would show that 20 minutes is the amount of time for 4 pieces. It took some people a moment of reflection, but eventually everyone saw that the teacher's response was wrong, and it was the student's reply of 20 minutes which was correct. We can just show this in real life. If you have a block of wood that you are sawing, you only need to make 1 cut so that the board is split into 2 pieces.
Okay, so this is where I have the problem with the whole scenario. I said it before that the question is too vague. See, yeah, here's the thought process. Both the students and the teacher have this thought process going here. The thought process is, okay, if you have 1 piece of wood, you don't have to cut it all. They're going to explain it in better details. But you have 1 piece of wood, and you don't care what size it is, then yeah, it's going to take like 0 minutes to cut the piece of wood. But if you want 2 pieces, you only need to make 1 cut. Again, they're going to explain this in the details a little later, but I was going to, it's kind of best to kind of go through the same explanation twice, which is why I'm kind of interrupting the video right now. The problem is, yeah, the teacher's thought process is, if I have 1 piece of wood, but I want a smaller piece of wood, then you'll cut that piece of wood from the original board, and therefore you have this 1 piece of wood here. Yet if you want another piece of wood, therefore you cut it off from the original board, and there's 2 pieces, and therefore it will take 5 minutes to cut off from the original board. Where the student's thinking, oh, no, again, if you just want 1 piece of wood, therefore, yeah, don't cut it. You already got your piece of wood. Yeah, if you want 2 pieces, either, I don't know, you want a smaller piece and a big piece, or you want both of them to be roughly equal size, then you cut it in half. Again, then you have 2 pieces of wood. Now, this is where I felt that the question is too vague. Because odds are, why would you want a piece of wood to be cut in the first place unless you want a certain length? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you something. Okay, here's the scenario here. Trust me, I'm a better artist than this. You see them from my other videos. Let's say you have 3 foot here, piece of wood here. And let's say it takes, I'm going to go with a scenario, it takes 5 minutes to cut off a piece of wood. Let's say someone wants, or you want, 1 foot of piece of wood. It takes 5 minutes to do this. But let's say, well, come to think of it, maybe I want two 1 foot piece of wood. So you go over here and you cut it. Now, if you're not looking at this, so I do like the idea that, yeah, maybe you should actually see what it is that you're doing. Because here, you can see my problem here is actually wrong. You're assuming, oh, okay, well, then I'll just cut this other piece of wood. Well, why? This is cut. This is 1 foot. And this is 2 feet. You cut this, 1 foot, and look at that. It's actually 5 minutes to cut 1 foot. You see the scenario? This is why I have a problem with the answer, the question. It's too vague. We don't know how long the piece of wood is. We don't know what length the piece of wood should be at. And again, this is where I have a problem with the question. Now I'm going to go ahead and play the rest, and then we'll see what's going on here.
Splitting the board into 2 pieces takes 10 minutes with just 1 cut. Just to make the pattern a little more clear, let's go over it very carefully. We start out with 1 block of wood. So if you make no cuts, 0 cuts will be 1 piece, and that takes 0 minutes. Now what happens when you make 1 cut? This will split the board into 2 pieces. So 1 cut will correspond to 2 pieces, and that corresponds to 10 minutes. If we now make 2 cuts, then we will split the board into 3 pieces. So 2 cuts will be 3 pieces. That'll take the time of 1 more cut, and that will take 20 minutes. So we have a pattern. 0 cuts means 1 piece means 0 minutes. We then go 1 cut is 2 pieces and 10 minutes. So we increase the number of cuts by 1, we increase the number of pieces by 1, and this increases the total amount of time by 10. So if we apply the same pattern to the next step, it will require 2 cuts to split the board into 3 pieces, which means 20 minutes. This is without...
Yeah, you see where I'm disagreeing with the person right here. Like I said, I want to explain my explanation, and I want the person to explain their explanation. Like I said, it is pretty vague. Like you can see here, 0 cuts equal 1 pieces. Yeah, I agree with that one. If you don't care what the size is, then yeah, it's already 1 piece. Again, if you don't care again what the size is, yeah, 1 cut will equal 2 pieces. Again, he's not saying anything wrong. And now there's a student, now there's a teacher. Again, as I pointed out before, 2 cuts equal 3 pieces, which equal 20 minutes. See, again, the thinking isn't wrong. But again, I feel like you could put any scenario in your head and come up with a different answer just because of that one scenario. My scenario is it has to be a certain length. And of course, convenience have to happen. So understand the flaw in my thinking here. One, I'm putting the idea that there's each piece of wood has to be a certain length, and out of convenience, it just happens that person wants 3 pieces, and again, it just happens that that piece of wood was 3 feet, and therefore 2 cuts would create 3 pieces of what the person wants. But again, that slightly different scenario can come out with a completely different answer. You talk about the teacher saying, look, I just want a piece of wood cut off from the original board, therefore I'm making 1 piece. The student's thought is, well, why are you cutting the piece of board in the first place? You only want 1 piece. Well, there's your 1 piece. And again, each one comes up with a different time. In my case, I'm agreeing with the teacher saying, okay, well, if it takes 5 minutes to make 1 cut, but again, the board just happens to be in the right length, for what the person wants, then yeah, you need 2 cuts to make 3 pieces. So at least we both all agree on that one. We do agree that, yeah, if you want 3 pieces out of one board, you need to cut only twice. So we do agree on that one. The problem is the length of time. Now, yeah, I looked at the question here. So it takes Marina 10 minutes to saw a board into 2 pieces. So again, you can take that any way you want. You can take it as in you cut the board in half, which will equal 2 pieces. You only need 1 cut. Or you can take it as the teacher's way of saying things like, no, in order to cut 2 pieces, you have to, well, at different length, at smaller lengths, you got to cut 2 pieces off the original board. And because of that, in my thought is, again, well, you heard my thoughts. And each one came out with a different scenario. I came out with 10 minutes. This one here came out with 20 minutes, and the teacher came out with 15 minutes. So I think the real problem is I felt the question was just too vague. But what are your thoughts are? Am I overthinking this? Is this person overthinking this? Are we not putting too little thought? What is your thought process? What do you think the answer is? If you run into a question just like this, where we're realizing, well, I guess it depends on the scenario, and maybe there is no right answer. I don't know. I'm actually not a mathematician, but anyhow, write in the comments below what you think of this scenario. Anyhow, as always, like and subscribe to my channel, and hope your day sucks a little less.